affiliates.
It must be you to help me make it through my days and nights. It must be you to hold me when I need a friend. My definition of heaven on earth might be short and sweet. It must.
Shalom and welcome to Taped with Rabbi Doug. I'm here tonight with guest Jerry Markbreit, NFL referee. Jerry, welcome to the show, and glad you could be with us tonight. You're speaking tonight to a group of people about your career as an NFL referee. Can you tell me something? How would someone who, let's say, wants to referee a touch football game or referees little league games, how can they get into the big leagues? How do you go from there into professional referee?
It takes a long time, but when you start officiating, you take all of the low-level games, and your goal should be to get to the next level, not to get to the NFL, but if you're working grade school games, to get to high school games. And then when you work high school games, your goal should be to get to maybe some small college games, junior college, then to get to a major college conference, and from there into the big.
So is it sort of like a resume? You kind of turn in your resume and you say, I work these games and I work this, and I'd like to work for you.
It took me 20 years of officiating to get to the National Football League.
Wonderful. What did you do? Where did you go to school? What was your background in sports that brought you to learning football?
I went to Hyde Park High School in Chicago on the South Side, and fortunately, my high school football coach was an official. He was a Big Ten and a high school official. His name was Elliot Hassan, and he was my idol. And he not only was a coach, but he officiated. And I used to go out to games to watch other people play, and I saw him officiating. I was so impressed and intrigued by what he did that I kept asking him, how do I get into this officiating? And he said, when you graduate, go to college, try your hand at intramural officiating. If you like it, when you come home, when you graduate, I'll take you up to the local officials association and we'll teach you how to be an official. He said, and if you're any good, you can do it your whole adult life. And I thought, that's not possible. 43 years old. I retired at 64 years old. I'm 68 now, and this is my 5th year working for the NFL after I've retired.
Coaching the referees.
Coaching the referees.
How does someone master all the rules? You're a lawyer, you got to look in books all the time. You're there on the field. How do you know what all the rules are when they take place?
Well, you master the game by studying 12 months a year, every day of the year. And nobody knows everything. But the more you study and the more tests and exams that you take, the more seminars, the more group discussions, conference calls, the more you know. And hopefully you'll know enough to get through the tough ones.
Now, you are the only Jewish referee in the NFL, is that correct? You are
the only other Jewish referee, head referee, the guy with the white hat.
Right.
Was a fella in the late 1930s and early 40s named Bobby Kahn. Bobby Kahn was 5'4", and he was the toughest referee the NFL ever had back in those days. And he's the only other Jewish referee.
Now the referee, literally,
he's the head.
Did you say the head referee? The person who's called the referee is the head referee. The rest of the people are linemen, officials.
But they're head linesmen, line judges, and so on. But the referee is the guy with the white hat.
The white hat. The one who follows the quarterback.
He's the one that follows the quarterback. He's the one that talks on the microphone.
Very nice. We're looking forward to your speech, and I know you have a lot to say, and you're a very entertaining speaker. So we'll see you in a minute as you now hear Jerry Markbreit.
Hey, I'm Spike Manton. When I'm not on the radio, I prefer to be taped with Rabbi Doug. And it's nice to not be on one of those pay-per-view channels like all the other tapings with Rabbi Doug have been.
It's very hard to sit back and listen to some of the things that you accomplish in your life because sometimes you don't realize that all these things really happen to you. Being a little Jewish guy from Skokie, Illinois, I just went about my business and got lucky. But being a Jew in a Gentile world like the National Football League is intriguing and interesting because there are a few Jewish men strategically situated in the National Football League. Al Davis at the Oakland Raiders and the Modell family now in Baltimore. I mean, there are some Jews around. Big name Jews. And then there's the little know-nothing Jews, a few Jewish officials. But when I got through officiating, the fellas that were on my crew all those years knew what a Jewish man was. They knew when the Jewish holidays occurred. They said the appropriate thing. They sent holiday cards because I educated them. They knew what a chazer was, and a shtunk, and all of the other little things that I always said. And they never forget. You know, we have a very fine, young Jewish football player, now retired, who's very active in the B'nai B'rith, which I'm the president of the Sports Lodge B'nai B'rith. His name is Brent Novoselsky. Brent went to Niles North, played 7 years.
My wife's class.
Played 7 years in the National Football League, and my wife taught him in high school, English. And so we've known the family, I've known him since he was a little boy. And every time I worked a game that he was in, he'd always give me the old wink. Jerry, I'm here. Don't do anything bad. Minnesota playing the Raiders, opening kickoff. And there's a big melee, and you're not allowed to block low. And some guy from Minnesota came flying in and knocked somebody down low. And my flag came out. It was a terrific call. Low block, 15-yard penalty. And as the perpetrator of the block rolled over, I saw it was Brent. I looked at him and went, Jerry, it's me, Brent. I said, Brent, I didn't know it was you. Being an NFL referee is kind of a minor celebrity role. People actually remember and know you because they see your face on television. I mean, the referee calls all the fouls and they see you. Everywhere I traveled for 23 years, no matter where, people would stop. Hi, ref, how are you? Nice to see you. And my wife, who travels often with me, said, who is that? And I said, I don't know. They know me from television. They think they know me. They don't even know who I am half the time. They don't know my name, but they know my face because they've seen me for so many years. It's kind of a minor celebrity role. Last season, I'm still working for the league as a trainer. And people still remember old referees. I was in the men's room at O'Hare Field, minding my own business like I always do. Washing my hands, when I looked up into the mirror, I noticed a fellow looking at me. He looked from side to side. He finally tapped me on the shoulder. I looked up. He went. I nodded. He smiled, and I walked out. That's the kind of minor celebrity we enjoy. People think I'm an expert on football, and I'm not. What I am is an expert on officiating football. I'm an expert on finding out how good you can be at what you do. I spent 43 years trying to find out how good I was, trying to prove that I could be perfect, and never was. And probably another 43 years still wouldn't be. Never worked that perfect game, ever. Perfection, a great goal. But I strived, I tried. In fact, my last book, Last Call, is about the last call that I made in a 23-year NFL career. It was a holding call that I failed to make. On the last call of the last game, my 460th NFL game, I made a mistake. And I went in that game knowing that I was going to have that perfect game, the one perfect game of my career. And yet I came out realizing, no matter how good I thought I was, I still made a mistake. Because nobody's perfect. But the charge, the thrill of doing this thing is so tremendous. You know, can you imagine being in the spotlight just for a moment? where everything you do is seen by a great portion of the United States. It's risky stuff. When you make a mistake, everybody sees it. Now, I live here in Chicago. When you live in a city with a pro football team, you don't work for that team. So 11 years in the league, I had never worked a Chicago Bear game. And the reason you don't work for the Bears if you live in Chicago is because the people in Chicago know that you live in Chicago. They also know where your house is. The league doesn't want my house blown up on a bad call, so I never worked a Bear game. Late November 1986, the call came. We're giving you a Bear game. It's the only one you've ever had. You're going to have a heck of a good time. You'll have your crew out to your house for dinner. It's the first game I've had in Chicago in 11s. I was excited. My wife made dinner for the crew. We had a wonderful time. The supervisor that called said, listen, the game should be a breeze. Green Bay's only won 2 ball games. The Bears were a shoo-in for the division. Have a good time. And my wife made a heck of a dinner. We strolled around Soldier Field. A lot of old friends saw me. Jerry, nice to see you. Started the typical Green Bay Bear game. We had a couple of big fouls early, and then with quieted down, 3 minutes left in the second quarter, Jim McMahon, drop back, quick pass up the middle, intercepted. Simple play. Referee, my job is to watch the quarterback. Now, when he throws the pass, I don't watch the flag of the pass. I watch him to make sure no one hurts him. Well, I could tell by the moan of the crowd that an interception occurred. But I was still watching McMahon when I noticed a Green Bay man running toward him. And he kept on running. The play was over for at least 15 or 20 seconds. I should have been downfield to get the play set up going the other way, but something said, stay where you are. I backed up a couple of steps. This big number 94 for Green Bay ran over, grabbed McMahon, picked him up, turned him upside down, stuffed him head first into the ground. My flag hit the ground before McMahon's body landed on top of him. He landed on his head and shoulder. He was out instantly. I stood there. The crowd was hushed. Here I am in Soldier Field, first time in 11 years. The crowd absolutely hushed. Motionless, I look at this and I said to myself, my God, he's killed him. This guy's been murdered here on the field. And I'm going to be blamed for the death. Charles Martin, the perpetrator, pushed off of the prone body of McMahon, got up on his feet. Jim Colbert, who had seen this, came running from 15 yards away and ran into this guy from behind with the latest hit ever recorded in the National Football League. I went for my flag, it was already down. Now when your flag is down, you throw your hat. I had a brand new hat for this game, and it was a lousy money day. And I knew that if I offset these penalties, we'd probably be killed. So I did nothing. I'm not going to throw this beautiful new hat down in the mud. The flag came in from my line judge. Mike Ditka, in his prime, stepped off the sideline, reserved, mild-mannered as he always was. Markbreit, I see 2 flags down. What does that mean? I said, you know, coach, offset. He said, offset? You mean there won't be a penalty? He said, my man may be dead. I said, you know the rule. He said, I'm going to give you the Ditka rule. Good. He said, you offset that penalty so you won't get home for dinner tonight. By this time, this Charles Martin, this hulking, 6'6", 320-pound behemoth that had perpetrated this dastardly act was up on his feet. Now, I'm not standing in a hole up here. I used to be 5'9". I don't know what I am anymore. I reached over, I grabbed this guy by the arm. We're not supposed to grab these players out of the field because usually if you grab them, they turn and they let you have it, claiming they thought you were someone from the other team. I grabbed him by the arm and said, fella, you're out of the game. Let's go. I'm ejecting you from the game. He pulled away from me vehemently. He said, I'm not going anywhere with you. I said, you don't come with me right now to let the Bears kill you. He looked, he said, let's go. I took him to the sideline, gave him to his coach, Forrest Gregg. I said, coach, this man is ejected. He's out of the game. Get him in the locker room. He looked at me in dismay. He said, what did he do? Back in the middle of the field, Ditka out on the field now. They're still attending to McMahon, who is breathing. Ditko walked over to me. He said, Jerry, I want to apologize for threatening you from the sideline. We're going to do everything we can to get you safely out of here after the game. Whether you offset that foul or not. Well, we offset the penalty. We kicked Charles Martin out. I kicked him out of the game. It was the first time a player had ever been ejected in an NFL game for something other than a fight. Now, I didn't know if I had the right to do that or not. I also elected not to offset those penalties. I convinced my line judge to pick his flag up, knowing that an offset would result in our death. Now, I took 2 big chances. The league backed both of them. It was the most important, absolutely the most important call of my 23-year NFL career. I got my second Super Bowl that year because of that call. But the lesson that I learned that day was, this was a nothing game. This game meant nothing in the standings. Green Bay was out of it. The Bears were cinched to win their division. The game meant nothing. And the biggest single call of my career occurred. Every single day, no matter where you are in life, retired, working, family, always be ready for the unexpected. Some decision that you might make will be very important that day. And you'll be pleased when you make the right decision. You'll be pleased with yourself because you treated it like it was something important. Had I not been ready for this play, it could have destroyed my career. Risky stuff. A couple years earlier, working a game in Milwaukee County Stadium, Green Bay, Minnesota. Just before we walked in, the security man, a retired FBI man in the NFL, he walked in, he said, "Who's the referee?" I said, "I am." He said, "We've got a problem." He said, "Someone has threatened to shoot the Green Bay quarterback on the field. They apparently have a gun in the stands." I said, "Why are you telling me this?" He said, "Well, we called the league office this morning. They said, you, as the referee, stand right next to the quarterback." He said, "Do you think you could maybe stand somewhere else today?" I said, "No, I can't." I said, "That's my spot." I said, "I'm going down to work this game. You better find the guy with the gun." I went down. Lynn Dickey was the quarterback in Green Bay. He had a triple flak jacket on. "Jerry, how are you?" I said, "Fine." And he said, "Where's your flak jacket?" I said, "I can't wear any of these striped shirts." He said, "What are you going to do when they start shooting at me?" I smiled. I looked at him. I said, "I'll be right behind you the whole day." Well, they didn't shoot, but the risk was there. The real risk, of course, is embarrassment. And you never know what's going to happen. But you go out there feeling that you could do the right job. Did you ever watch a game and the officials are huddling in an NFL game and you wonder, what are they talking about? The other sports make the call and they move on. But in football, there's always a negotiation. And the inside scoop is this. We have a lot of young officials in the NFL. Sometimes they make a call, and when the referee gets to them, they don't really know what they've called. And so the referee comes in, he says, "Chad, what do you have?" He said, "Jerry," he said, "I'm not sure." And I said, "Well, what'd you drop your flag for?" He said, "Well, I don't know." Well, who committed the foul? I don't know. Now, television is watching this, and what can I come out and say that Chad Brown does not know what he called in this play? I mean, it would be ridiculous. Well, here we are in 1994 up in 49er country. Candlestick Park, Philadelphia Eagles up there. Eagles were beating the daylights out of the 49ers. Third quarter, punt. Flag came flying in from my umpire, Chad Brown, 6'6", 265-pound ex-NFL player. Second-year umpire in the NFL. Terrific young man. His flag flew, and they said, "What do you have, Chad?" He said, "I got a 15-yard face mask foul." He ripped his helmet off. I said, "Excellent, keep going." He said, "Jerry, I did not get the number of the fouler." I said, "That's all right, Chad, keep going." He said, "Unfortunately," he said, "I don't know what team committed the foul." He said, "When I looked to the ground, there were 2 helmets down." He said, "I'm not sure who did what to who." I said, "Chad, what am I going to do? Come out and say there's no foul?" I said, "They're going to see it on television. We're going to look like idiots." Just then the refrigerator, William Perry of Chicago fame, playing his last year in the NFL. walked over to Chad. They had been talking to Chad all day because NFL players love officials that played in the league. He said, Chad, what's wrong? He said, I'm in trouble with Jerry. I called this foul. I'm really confused. I don't know anything. He said, give me a second. 5 seconds later, Parrott returned, and I stood off to the side listening to what he said to Chad Brown. He said, Chad, he said, Greg Townsend, number 94, our middle linebacker, committed that foul, and he did rip his helmet off, and it is a 15-yard penalty. And I looked at Chad, I said, what do you think? He said, let's go with it. Yeah, we did. We were right. We looked like $1 million. That's why they have those conferences. You know, you would say, what is a Jewish man doing on a football field with all these Gentiles for 43 years? And my wife screamed at for 43 years. You should have been working, doing something else. But it was something that was so intriguing for me. It was something that was inside of me that I didn't realize was there. Walking into those stadiums dressed in suit and tie, get in that locker room, you take all your stuff off, you put on that zebra outfit, that wonderful striped shirt, white pants, white hat. When that door opened and I flew out onto that field, I felt like Superman coming out of a phone booth. For 3 hours, I was in charge of an NFL football game. I mean, in the whole scheme of life, it doesn't mean anything. It's just a little dot. But for the people involved, it's big stuff. And I was the guy for 23 years. But I didn't start working in the National Football League, obviously. In 1956, right out of college, I began my career in Grant Park working the AZA Touch Football League. $3 a game. 3 games on Sunday morning. $9, big time money. I was only making $40 a week on my job. I made $9 on Sunday morning. And then, after working 3 touch games, I would drive out to 95th and Western to work 2 Catholic grammar school 5th grade games. $5 a game. I was making $19 working 5 football games on Sunday. I came home, I was so exhilarated. I said to my wife, I feel so important. These kids are so appreciative. I found what I really have been meant to do. And she said, how much money can you make? And I said, $19 on Sunday. I worked every level of the game. Frosh Soft and every little kiddie game, you name it. I worked small college. I got into the Big Ten. I worked for 11 years. And at 41 years old, I got into the National Football League. Miraculously. I applied and got in right away. And was put on a crew with the famous Tommy Bell. Tommy Bell was a great referee from Lexington, Kentucky. Southern Baptist gentleman. Great official. He worked 1 year and retired. He was ill. They made me the head referee on his crew. I was 42 years old. And for 5 years I struggled to try to figure out why he was so good. 1982 season came. I'd had a really good year. The goal of all officials is to referee a Super Bowl game. You're graded throughout the whole season. Every call that you make is given a grade. At the end of the year, the top rated official at each of the 7 positions gets a Super Bowl. That means for 1 year, you were the best at your position in the whole world. I mean, the odds of getting that are impossible. I could never get the Super Bowl. Everybody else was better than I thought. Well, the day the assignments to be made for Super Bowl 17, I waited all day in my office. Finally, late in the afternoon, the phone rang. It was Art McNally, our supervisor. He said, Jerry Markbreit, you're the referee on Super Bowl 17. Congratulations. I was 47 years old. I was so excited. I got plots. He said, you can't tell anyone you're on this game. We'll announce it on Friday. You'll be out in Los Angeles Thursday night. Call Western Union. Confirm by telegram. Do not mention the game in the telegram. And he hung the phone up. I was so excited I could hardly breathe. I called Western Union. I said, confirming January 30th assignment. Send this to Mr. Art McNally, 410 Park Avenue, New York. Signed, Jerry Markbreit. The operator repeated the telegram. And then in a warm, motherly voice said, Mr. Markbreit, May I please be the first to congratulate you. You must be the referee on Super Bowl 17. I said, I didn't mention the game in the television. She said, oh, we know who you are. She said, we watch you every week on TV. You're our favorite ref. We won't tell anyone. There are only 500 operators in this office. 1 minute later, Irv Cupson had called. Are you the referee on Super Bowl 17? I said, I can't tell you. He said, you can trust me. Out to California we went. Everyone was excited. We met and we went out to the Rose Bowl on Friday, did all the things that you're supposed to do, all the preliminary things. On Friday night, a tremendous party is thrown by the commissioner. Saturday, down to business, pre-game meetings, looking at tapes. Saturday night, a special Catholic Mass is held. Now, I'm probably the only Jewish man in the United States that knows the Catholic Mass by heart, in Latin and in English. You see, when I came in the league with this famous Tommy Bell, this Southern Baptist gentleman, took me aside, first game, he said, kid, he said, we've got 4 Catholics on this crew. He said, and we've got a rule on this crew. We stick together from the moment we arrive in town until we're back on the plane. He said, consequently, we all go to church together. We have for the last 12 years. Have you ever been to church? I said, absolutely not. He said, what do you think? I said, do I have a choice? He said, yes. He said, your choice is you'll be seated at my left tomorrow morning or at my right. And there I found myself in church before the first game of my NFL career, praying in my own way that all would go well. And the game went well. And the season went well. All 20 games. I worked 460 NFL games.
Jerry, this was a most entertaining evening. I want to thank you so much for being on the show. I want you to thank you so much for coming to speak to everyone today. I wish you so much success in your continued coaching of today's referees in the NFL. And I just can't thank you enough. And I want to thank you, all our viewers, for being with us. Remember, we're on every week at this time. So hope to see you next time here on Taped with Rabbi Doug. Shalom.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for joining us at the Capital.